I've been reading your comments and you've had some great ones about my skincare routine and the frankincense oil. And in this video, I'm going to answer a bunch of those questions. We're just going to sit and have a chat. Am I still using the tallow balm? And what's the difference between frankincense essential oil and the oil that we made? All kinds of things. I'm just going to jump right in. This is going to cover the two videos, the one about infusing the frankincense oil and about my skincare routine. These are the questions from the skincare routine video, and this is from Joni, and there were several of you had asked this same question. I thought you said you used beef tallow on your face at night. At the time of that video, I was using beef tallow on my face at night. And that leads to this next question. Do you like this new skincare routine better than the tallow balm? That was from Harley Barley. But several of you asked that question as well. So the tallow balm really helped me transition to the all-natural skincare. I used that for about 1.5 years. It was the only thing I was using morning and night for the longest time, and it was great for using with a lot of my clients in my aesthetics practice. What's great about it is really gentle, and it works for most skin types across the board. It just feels nice, and it was easy. And over time, I started using castor oil at night. I was just experimenting with some things. Well, I really liked that. And then that led to trying a few other things. And then it eventually got into this skincare routine that I showed you. Now, I started using the tallow balm probably almost 2 years ago. And the video where I made the tallow balm was around 1 year ago. And 1 year from now, I'll probably be doing something a little different than what I just showed you in that video. So yes, to answer your question, I like this skincare routine better for me at this stage that I'm at. Now, before we get to the next question, that kind of leads to a conversation. And it's kind of what's happened with the tallow. You know, something becomes really popular and it gets kind of commercialized. Now, I have access to tallow and I make it myself. But if you don't have access to that, then you're relying on the advertising and the information that someone else is telling you about their product. And I did a video on that. And I noticed with you guys that the tallow became, if it's not easily accessible to you, it kind of became complicated. And I've done a couple videos on that, and I will link those. And that was frustrating. Let's get another question. Okay, sleep deprived mama said, I tried using castor oil on my face. It felt so nice, but then I started breaking out. Is this something your face gets used to, or should I stop? Stop. Stop. If you have any kind of bad reaction to anything, you stop immediately. Again, like I said, we are all different. What works for me may not work for you. There were some comments as well that jojoba broke people out, and they absolutely couldn't use the jojoba oil. That doesn't mean that it's going to break everybody out. It's just not for you. And like I said in that video, that's why I want you to try each thing individually so that you'll know if you're having a bad reaction to it. Now, most of the things I mentioned across the board, they're pretty neutral ingredients that the majority of people shouldn't have a problem with. But if you do, stop immediately. And there's something else. Now, something I didn't mention, if you break out with the jojoba oil, you can try an argan oil. And I'll do another video going over some of these different oils because the different oils have different properties. I chose the jojoba because it's a good one to start with for most people, not everybody. Now, what's next? Oh, this one was good. I didn't think of this. I've tried oil on my face, but my hair always gets dirty. How do I avoid this? Well, I have all this hair and it's curly and it's dry. So that is not an issue for me. I put oil in my hair. So I'm sorry, I didn't think of that. I would recommend a thick absorbent headband, maybe something terry cloth, and you don't have to use an excess amount of oil, and then maybe try to keep it away from right around your hairline. It could be the oil. Some oils are a little more astringent and not as oily. And not oily oil. Okay. Let's see. Some of you said you couldn't find the rose water and glycerin spray video. That video is called, I think the headline is hyaluronic acid. And in that video, I'm talking about why I chose glycerin over the hyaluronic acid. So Ruth Ann asks, what about your neck and chest? Yes, I do the same thing on my neck and chest. Someone said, I can't imagine washing my face without water. I use water on my face. I was just filming in my kitchen. You can splash your face with the water and rinse it off. If I'm in the shower, I stand and let it just rinse off in the hot water, or I just use the warm washcloth. Someone asked how I launder my washcloths, if I wash them with my other towels, and does the oil ruin my washcloths? I just wash them normally with my towels. I'm just using 100% cotton washcloths. The problem I have with my washcloths is really more like mascara and makeup. The oils haven't been a problem. And that brings me to my pillowcases. After using the oils and the castor oil, and I use 100% cotton pillowcases, I don't have oil on my pillowcases. It's not affecting my pillowcases at all. If you have really nice towels and you really want to do this, get some 100% cotton washcloths that you can just do your face, wash them separately. But no, I've not had a problem with it, and I'm not using it on my fancy towels. Well, I really don't have fancy towels, but I do have some guest towels. I've not had a problem with that. Someone also mentioned that the castor oil feels really sticky. The castor oil does feel sticky. When you make the choice to go to a natural skincare, you are sacrificing some of the things you've been accustomed to feeling. The cosmetic industry adds synthetic ingredient and silicones and different things to make it feel really pleasant, light, almost like it's not there. A lot of those things that give us that feel are carcinogenic, toxic, and just are a lot of things that if you're here, you're trying to avoid in your skincare. So it's going to feel different. There's some give and take. We're just trying to figure out how to navigate this whole natural skincare thing. Another question you all had with the skincare routine is, can I mix these oils together? Several of you wanted to mix the raspberry seed frankincense and the castor oil and just do one oil at night. You absolutely can. Now, make sure that you are good with each one of these oils before you mix them, because they're not inexpensive and you don't want to waste them. If one of them starts to bother you, now you've mixed it up and there you are. So another reason I prefer to keep them separate at this moment, for instance, I'm not using frankincense every night. A few nights I use rose hips oil, and rose hips oil makes me a little pink, a little red, but it's temporary. So that's what I mean. It's not something that I want to use every night. I had several questions about rosacea, eczema, and acne. And all of those topics are, well, they're kind of complicated and they're very individual, and it's really too much to address in comments. There's so many variables. And rosacea, I actually had dealt with rosacea personally years ago, but that's not been a problem for me. And that is a complicated one too. I might address rosacea another time, but in the comments, it's super hard. I will say this routine as it is for most people would be a really good starting point if you have rosacea. That's why I stress keeping it really simple. And with rosacea, protecting that skin barrier is huge. So I think you could follow this routine. So go slow and easy. Eczema is a tough one too. The frankincense should be good with the eczema. Most of this routine should be good with eczema, but there's so many variables. Diet, hormones, environment, stress. Even if you don't have difficult skin issues, all of those things still affect our skin. That's most of the questions for the skincare routine. If I missed anything, put it in the comments below. We're going to get to the frankincense oil. Could you use castor oil instead of jojoba? I'm assuming that means to infuse, and several people asked that. And yes, you could do that. The different oils have different components and benefits that you want from the oil. Some oils don't like to be heated. Now, I've read different things with the castor oil. I have read that long-term heat can destroy some of the good components in the castor oil and I don't want to lose those. Some things say that it can take the higher heat, but I have another reason why I don't use it here in a minute. But if you wanted to use the castor oil, I would do it on a warm setting in your crock pot, infuse it for the 24 hours, or I would infuse that a slow infusion where you would just add the oil to the resin and set it aside for 6 to 8 weeks and then strain it. That way it's not being exposed to heat. So yes, you could do that. Now, another reason I don't do that is I like using my frankincense oil in the day. Castor oil is a bit sticky. Anyway, I feel that kind of inhibits my choices in using it if I would do it in the castor oil. But yes, you 100% could keep those things in mind. So I'm just using the jojoba oil. It can withstand the heat. It's just a really good neutral oil for most people. Nina wants to know, can you leave the unfiltered oil in the jar for it to absorb more of the frankincense? Okay, I'm reading that now and I think I misunderstood that question, but okay. But someone else asked this. After I strained out the oil and there was the resin left in there that I'm using for the scrub, a lot of you asked about that too. The scrub is lovely and that's coming really soon. If you didn't want to use that as a scrub, you could take that same resin, and what I would do, because you've already got all this nice oil, just put some more oil back in it, set it in a dark room, and leave it for at least 6 to 8 weeks, or just when you need it again. Now, it might not be as potent as the oil before, but it'll be nice. Yes, you could make a second infusion. Everybody's resin is a little bit different. And one of you also said that your oil turned out a lot darker than mine did. I'm assuming that you didn't get it too hot and didn't scorch your resin. I'm assuming that that didn't happen. There are many varieties of the frankincense resin. It's like a good wine. It's all the different grapes make it a little bit different. So it's the same with the frankincense, and it depends on what region they come from, what plant they come from. Some of them have been really dark. So my guess would be if yours didn't come out the same color as mine, it could be, and probably is, the variety of frankincense resin that you have. As far as I know, they all have really similar benefits, and I'm sure there's probably some that are better than others, but do the best you can with what you got. Ooh, this is another one. I'm so sorry this happened to you. But in the crock pot where I say you put the washcloth in the bottom and then you put your jar on top, what happened to her is she got hers in her crock pot. When she came back a few minutes later, her jar had tipped over and got water all in it. She had a whole mess. I felt so bad for her. The washcloth, it doesn't need to be anything thick. You're just wanting a little bit, so don't fold your washcloth in a really deep, thick stack. Make sure it does have a good settled base. So, and I don't know what her situation was. Also, I didn't mention this. I mean, you've got oil in your mason jar. I had a certain amount in mind. Your amount is going to be different. You don't want to fill that water way over where your oil is, the line on your jar, because if you've got more water than weight in your jar could have a little bit of buoyancy and could kind of float up and tip over. So just have some water partially up your jar, just so that you're able to keep that warmth moving through that oil. You don't want your water to run out, but you don't need to have it up level with the top of the jar. Just make sure that your jar and your oil has enough weight to it when it's put in the water that it's not wanting to float. So that was really unfortunate, and love her heart, she was able to salvage it, I think, but it was a lot of work for her, and I really hate that, and I wish I'd have mentioned that sooner. One of you asked, do you have the crock pot on for the 24 hours? Yes, and mine was set on high. You could leave yours on warm, especially depending on your crock pot. If your water is simmering, then it's too hot. Mine was on high and it never got horribly hot. And someone asked, can I just leave it on warm? Yeah, you can leave it on warm. So just know your crock pot. I didn't measure the temperature of the water. Someone also asked. I just kept my water good and warm. It was not boiling. It was kind of hot. Just keep an eye on it. Make sure the water doesn't dissipate. Keep adding some water. Make sure that water is hot when you add it into the hot crock pot. And yes, I left my crock pot on for 24 hours. This was asked a lot. Why not just use essential oils? The difference between the frankincense infused oil and essential oils it's the process. When you make essential oils, it's basically a distillation process. They're using steam. It's a whole process. They're distilling out the essential oils from the resin. You're going to get the benefits that the distillation process brings out of the resin. In the oil infusion, you are bringing out the boswellic acid, the properties from the resin that distillation will not bring out. So you're getting different properties with the essential oil. There are different properties coming from the resin, the boswellic acid, and different things that are coming into the oil that you are not getting in your essential oil. So therefore, it's different, and I guess you could say a little more potent. That's the difference, yet similar. They're brother and sister instead of twins. Should you have told us how to use the oil? Yes, I should have. If you only saw the frankincense infused oil video, I highly recommend that you go watch my skincare routine because I show you exactly how I use the oil. To use the infused oil, it is excellent alone as the oil to rub on your joints, to use on your face. It has great anti-inflammatory, pain relieving properties. There is some studies that it shows it has some anti-cancer properties. It's anti-inflammatory, antiseptic, it is cell regenerating. There's so many good things. So if you wanted to use it for your joint, improve skin elasticity, it does help reduce dark spots, it evens skin tone. It helps stimulate our own body to produce collagen. So what about using olive oil? I slightly covered this, maybe not deep enough. I do not like to use olive oil, avocado oil, or even coconut oil on the face. The olive oil, if I were just using it for a salve for my body, that's fine. But for my face, no. I do not like olive oil for the face. Extremely high quality olive oils, possibly. But what you're buying at the grocery store, I buy really good quality olive oil, and I'm not going to use that on my face. A few of you also commented that you take the essential oils and you put it in coconut oil and you've been using it for years and you love it. Wonderful. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I've always said that. If you are using something that absolutely works for you and somebody else comes along and says, oh, I hate that, well, too bad. You do it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But for the average person, I don't recommend any of those. Oh, did your grinder gum up later? No, my grinder didn't gum up. But one of you mentioned that your grinder did, and that stinks. And they actually had a lot of trouble getting the resin out. One, I forgot to ask them, did they freeze it beforehand? My resin wasn't super gummy, and theirs could have been actually fresher or a better quality resin. So yeah, actually it being gummy is probably a good sign, but yeah, that stinks. That's why I recommend freezing it, and I froze mine for a couple days. I would at least freeze it for 24 hours. Sorry. If you have any more questions, please put them down in the comments. I'll try to answer them. I'll try. If you like this style of video, please let me know in the comments. And yeah, I'm thinking I might like to do it once a month if y'all want to hang out and chat. And if you missed any of those videos, I'll have one here and one here. You can just click on it and go check it out. My name's Loanne, and this is a little bit of homestead, and I thank you so much for hanging out with me.